we'd love to talk to you about a corporate war that has lasted half a century, Boeing and Airbus. Two very different companies across the Atlantic producing two different aircrafts, locked into a fierce battle involving trade sanctions, the WTO, technological innovations, and geopolitics. These two airlines have really got it out for each other. We're going to take a look at what exactly happened for these two companies to have such a tense relationship. So to answer the subject of this assignment, is this corporate warfare? So to answer that, we will take a look into the views and opinions of each company, their history and their inner workings. I will also conclude the findings at the end, which will sum up and analyze and give an unbiased opinion on what was mentioned for each company. So I'll begin with Boeing and giving a quick summary of the company and its side of the war against Airbus. So Boeing. The rise of Boeing comes from its long history and experience in the aerospace market. Boeing was founded back in 1916 by William Boeing under the name of Aero Products Company, which soon became the Boeing Company. And though its initial rise was due to manufacturing airplanes and part of the US military during World War I, the company quickly began expanding to make airplanes for the US Postal Service and passenger planes. As the maker of the Boeing 737, the best-selling commercial airplane to date, which began to be manufactured in the 1960s, Boeing established itself as the leading commercial aircraft producer. By working on enlarging the cabin of their planes, Boeing brought an era where traveling was much more affordable and accessible for everyone, bringing about a change in the commercial airplane industry forever, and with this, the rise of airplanes that were much bigger and capable of transporting more passengers than ever. During the 1970s, Boeing started fighting with Airbus, the new European manufacturer that brought about the beginning of the war, over export finance and other subsidies, but that cooled off after Boeing realized that fighting wasn't going to help either of them. President Jimmy Carter decided that the aircraft war was too risky considering European airlines were a massive buyer of Boeing aircraft and US airlines also welcomed Airbus as a supplier. By 1992, with the EC and US agreement on trade in large civil aircraft, Boeing made a truce, mainly promising to produce government support and not initiating countervailing duty against each other. And they decided to focus on efficiency, lower emissions, and lower fuel consumption on their new models of planes. But then Airbus launched their A320 and A33 family. They were clearly getting help from the European government. They called it launch aid, which Boeing called help from the government. This breached the original truce in 1992, so Boeing withdrew from the agreement and launched consultations with the WTO. Boeing and Airbus went back and forth on this. It started in 2004 when the US filed a case at the WTO against the EU. Complaints and tariffs were flung on both sides. The US government pursued penalties by placing tariffs on goods and services from Europe. In the end, these tariffs affected a total value of $11.5 billion of trade between both sides. Breaking this down further, between the EU and the US, Boeing had to pay over $3.3 billion in duties. These duties impacted everything from Parmesan cheese to nuts and tobacco. In 2018 and 2019, Boeing suffered a major catastrophe with the crash of Lion Air Flight and Ethiopian Airlines. Their Boeing 737 MAX suffered technological errors that caused these planes to crash. Their stock crashed as a result of this. Due to this, Boeing was forced to ground their flagship plane for 20 months. The accidents cost an estimated $20 billion in fines, compensation and legal fees with indirect losses of more than $60 billion, and 12,000 cancelled orders. To this day, Boeing is still recovering. So now for the Airbus story. Airbus has existed as a number of different companies throughout its history, but the company's breakthrough came with the introduction of the A300 jet. This had immediately led to the intense rivalry between Airbus and Boeing as the two companies became close direct competitors, especially in the area of commercial aircraft. Airbus, however, has employed numerous strategies that are quite different from those of Boeing to gain the upper hand. This includes primarily the strong focus on technological innovation, such as improved materials engineering, improved aircraft efficiencies, and novel technologies. Through this approach, Airbus is hoping to create a competitive advantage over Boeing with its more traditional approach to aircraft engineering. This focus on the quality of design and engineering has led to a better reliability and safety track record for Airbus, which has had no major aircraft groundings in its entire history of operation. The next strategy difference is in the market segmentation of Airbus. The company does not have the strong military aspect that Boeing has, and as thus is considerably more reliant on the commercial airline sector. To this end, the majority of the innovation Airbus carries out is tailor-made for civilian application, as opposed to the large amounts of carryover that happen in Boeing from military to civilian. This gives Airbus the ability to focus on purely civilian applications and cater its advances to this area more effectively. Additionally, Airbus focuses on some civilian segments that Boeing has no presence in, such as civilian helicopters, whereas Boeing only focuses on military helicopters. Finally, there is a strong difference in the global presence of each company. Airbus has the advantage in this area due to its greater market diversity and the reduced reliability that it has in its home market of the EU. Additionally, Airbus has chosen to focus on expanding into Asia more aggressively, as this area is seen as having higher growth potential than the EU or North America. With 40% of Airbus's volume already coming from the Asia, it is clear that their strategy is to grow further in this area. This could give Airbus a commanding lead over Boeing as this market develops. The political situation is also better for Airbus, as this is not subject to the same level of uncertainty that exists for Boeing as a US company in China. So now on to the conclusion. Finally, we reach our key takeaways from analysing the battle between Boeing and Airbus. As we can clearly see, there has been fighting and fought on both sides, and though we may never know who actually started the tariffs and trade war between the two giants of industry, one thing is certain. Competition in the airplane manufacturing industry is fierce, and with both companies wanting to get the upper hand, innovation and cost efficiencies have caused the customer to win. By getting the competition going, both companies have pushed each other to offer better products at a better price and leverage their strengths as best as possible, leading to the divergence of strategies that we have discussed. As for the war between both companies, we can only speculate what will happen, but if history is anything to go by, this is but a standstill in what will continue to be a very heated rivalry between these two giants of industry.